Morbid Facts, Part 955. In Addo Elephant National Park, South Africa, a lioness named Josie went blind around age 12, likely from untreated eye disease such as cataracts or glaucoma. In the wild, that's almost always a death sentence since lionesses rely on vision to hunt and avoid threats. But instead of abandoning her, her two adult daughters stayed by her side for the next 5 years. They guided her using contact calls, flanked her while moving so she wouldn't walk into danger, and shared their kills so she could eat despite being unable to hunt. Thanks to her daughters, she survived like this until about age 17, which is already near the upper limit of a wild lion's lifespan. 2008, on a beach in Montauk, Long Island, New York, a bloated, hairless carcass washed ashore with no clear identifying features, quickly dubbed the Montauk Monster. The body was already in an advanced state of decomposition, likely causing the loss of fur and the distorted shape of the head and limbs. As photos spread online, some speculated it was an escaped or discarded experiment from the nearby Plum Island, home to a government animal disease research facility, or something connected to rumored labs in Montauk. Wildlife experts said it was most likely a raccoon or dog altered by decay and water exposure, which can strip fur and change how the skull appears. No official identification was ever confirmed, and the body disappeared shortly after being photographed, leaving the Montauk Monster unresolved and open to speculation. Extra Morbid Facts, Part 181. Just yesterday, on April 19, 2026, in Shreveport, Louisiana, 31-year-old Army National Guard veteran Shamar Elkins killed 8 children, 7 of them his own, after a domestic dispute with his wife, who he was in the process of separating from. Just hours before the attack, he'd been posting photos online, including one about spending time with his daughter, and nothing about it suggested anything was wrong or that something horrific was about to happen. Early that morning, he shot his wife first, who survived, and then went to another home where the children were and killed all 8 of them. Several were shot while asleep in their beds, and at least one child tried to escape but was still killed. The victims ranged from very young children to preteens. In the time leading up to it, family members said he'd been dealing with mental health struggles and what they described as dark thoughts. He also had a prior firearm-related arrest in 2019, but no clear single motive has been confirmed beyond the domestic situation escalating. Afterward, he fled the scene, carjacked a vehicle, and led police on a chase before being shot and killed by 2 officers. 2 adults survived the shooting with critical injuries, and the killings became one of the deadliest mass shootings involving children in recent U.S. history. These are some morbidly wholesome facts about Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's family lost their home when he was just a teenager, forcing them to live out of a van while he worked overnight janitor shifts after school to help keep them afloat financially. The stress of that period led him to start performing stand-up at a young age, using comedy as a way to cope with instability and support his family, often bombing hard early on before eventually developing his stage presence. But after becoming one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood, he developed severe depression that he later said had been building for years beneath the surface of his success. He's spoken openly about relying on medication during that time, but eventually stepped away from it and began focusing on understanding the root of what he was experiencing rather than just masking the symptoms. Instead of keeping those struggles private, he described depression in interviews as a form of exhaustion from maintaining a version of yourself that doesn't align with reality, helping people better understand what it can feel like internally. He's consistently used interviews, speeches, and even his own artwork to talk about mental health, identity, and emotional burnout, often encouraging people to confront those issues directly and not define themselves solely by external success. Later in his career, Jim shifted away from constant mainstream roles and focused more on personal expression and selective projects, openly prioritizing his mental state over maintaining the level of fame he had achieved earlier in his career. Morbid Facts, Part 954. This is the sunburst appearance of osteosarcoma, the most common form of bone cancer. The pattern forms when the tumor grows so aggressively that it forces new bone to shoot outward in sharp radiating spikes. It's most often seen in teenagers and young adults, typically in long bones like the femur near the knee. As it advances, the cancer can hollow out and weaken the bone from the inside, leading to intense pain, swelling, and sometimes sudden fractures under normal pressure. Even with treatment, it can quickly spread to the lungs, making it a particularly fast-moving and devastating disease. In 1974 in Memphis, R&B singer Al Green was attacked by his girlfriend Mary Woodson after he refused to marry her. As he was getting ready for bed, she poured a pot of boiling grits all over him, leaving him with severe second-degree burns across his torso. He reportedly ran through the house screaming in pain before collapsing. Moments later, Woodson locked herself in another room and turned the gun on herself. Green survived but required extensive recovery, and the incident became one of the most disturbing and defining moments of his life. According to serial killer Danny Rolling, here's a list of things you can do to avoid being murdered by a serial killer. Park your car in the light. Buy yourself a .38 caliber revolver. Get a permit to carry it on your person and keep it in your handbag where it's easy to get to. Buy some mace on a keychain and have it ready when you get out of your car. If your bedroom window doesn't have a screen, get one and nail it to the windowsill. Place a bunch of empty glass bottles in the windows. Get you some curtains. Buy a deadbolt and put it on your bedroom door so you can lock yourself in. Sleep with your .38 caliber revolver under your pillow. It won't go off by accident. If someone bothers you, don't ever let an attacker get control. Fight for your life. Scream as loud as you can. Spray mace in his face. Kick him in the balls. Scratch at his eyes. Pull out your .38 caliber and blow him away. Danny Rolling, also known as the Gainesville Ripper, murdered 5 college students in Florida in 1990. Breaking into their apartments at night and targeting them while they were alone. He was later captured, sentenced to death, and executed by lethal injection in 2006. Proof that animals are evolving, Part 16. A 34-year-old orangutan at the Metro Richmond Zoo in Virginia named Patrick was given a royal cloak for his birthday, and without any training, he tied it around himself like a wearable outfit. Orangutans are already known for advanced problem-solving and tool use, but moments like this show just how far that intelligence can go. Instead of playing with it, Patrick used the fabric with a clear purpose. It's a small moment, but it highlights the level of cognitive ability orangutans are capable of. This orb weaver spider had nowhere to attach the bottom of its web, so it made its own anchor. With no stable point to build from, it picked up a small rock and used it to hold the entire structure together. Orb weavers are known for their precise, almost mechanical construction, but this goes beyond instinct. It shows they can adjust their strategy when conditions change, solving problems in real time. In this case, the spider effectively created a solution to the missing piece of its environment, creatively allowing it to hunt in a place it otherwise couldn't have. Why is he doing that, though? Morbid Facts, Part 953. Hugh Jackman has had multiple basal cell carcinomas removed, a type of skin cancer caused by long-term UV exposure. These cancers often start off as small, easy-to-miss spots, but can slowly grow deeper into surrounding tissue if left untreated, in some cases eroding skin and underlying structures. His repeated diagnoses suggest damage that continues to surface years after the initial exposure. While rarely fatal, basal cell carcinoma can quietly develop, recur, and progressively invade tissue, making it more serious than most people realize. He's since used his experience to warn others about the dangers of UV exposure, regularly urging people to wear sunscreen and get their skin checked. In 2004 in South Africa, trophy hunter Ryan Naud, who ran Pro Hunt Africa and was known for killing endangered animals, was found dead beside his broken-down truck on a remote road. His vehicle had overheated, leaving him stranded and alone. When police arrived, he was lying next to the truck with multiple gunshot wounds, suggesting he had been approached at close range and executed. There were no clear signs of a struggle, and his belongings were left behind, making the motive unclear. Many speculate the killing was retaliatory due to his work killing protected wildlife, but no suspects were ever identified, and the case remains unsolved. Here's an image showing what the sinking of the Titanic would have actually looked like on April 15, 1912. It was a moonless night in the North Atlantic, and once the ship's power failed, the massive liner disappeared into near total darkness, leaving over 1,500 people unable to clearly see the ship, the lifeboats, or even each other. Many survivors later reported hearing screams from the water but couldn't see anything, as the lack of light turned the disaster into something disorienting and almost invisible. It wasn't just the freezing temperatures that made it so horrifying, it was also the darkness, where one of the worst disasters in maritime history unfolded out of sight. In 1922, a young girl with severe diabetes was photographed while essentially waiting to die, at a time when the condition was almost always fatal, especially in children. Before there was any treatment, patients were often placed on near-starvation diets to slow the disease, leaving them dangerously weak while their bodies continued to deteriorate. That same year, doctors administered a new experimental treatment called insulin, one of the first times it had ever been used on a human. Within days, patients who were expected to die began to recover. The discovery transformed diabetes from a death sentence into a manageable condition almost overnight. Morbid Facts, Part 951. Steven Stucker, best known for playing the chaotic air controller in Airplane, died in 1986 at just 38 years old due to complications with AIDS. At the time, the disease was still poorly understood, widely feared, and heavily stigmatized, especially within the entertainment industry. He publicly revealed his diagnosis in 1985, making him one of the first recognizable entertainers to speak openly about having AIDS during a period when many kept it hidden out of fear of backlash and discrimination. Like many early AIDS patients, his condition quickly deteriorated before any effective treatments existed. His death came at a time when thousands were dying under similar circumstances, helping to bring more visibility to a crisis that had long been ignored. In 1978, in Birmingham, England, medical photographer Janet Parker became the last person to die from smallpox after being exposed at the University of Birmingham Medical School, likely through airborne transmission from a laboratory working with the virus just one floor below her office. She developed symptoms days later and died on September 11th after several weeks in isolation. The outbreak triggered a massive public health response, including quarantines and emergency vaccines, but no further cases spread beyond Janet. During the crisis, her father suffered a fatal heart attack while visiting her in the hospital. The laboratory's head, Professor Henry Bedson, later died by suicide amid intense scrutiny over the incident.